welcome everyone to the second. I thought it was the first CU podcast of the new year, but it's a second.
Oh, you didn't know, really?
Because I was out of it on New Year's Day. That's a story for another year, another time for our memoirs, what New Year's Eve was like. This is a Tuesday, January 8th, 2019, the first weekly one that's not a special one like an E3.
Indeed.
Alongside Ian Ferguson, I'm Pat Contry. I am sick. I know 5 people, Ian, that are sick right now. We'll be talking about the Madbox gaming console. News out of CES from Hyperkin. Nintendo moving away from consoles? A scumbag star of the week from our buddy John Riggs. A Q&A topic. Maybe a goofy one. A Patreon Q&A. Ian, what's going on?
Not
You're healthier than me for one time in the podcast.
Yeah, I am.
That's a rarity.
I've got some energy. I've got some pep.
Wow, it's roles are reversed. He's going to carry this shit this week. I seriously though, I know about 4 to 5 people that are sick. I got off the phone with one, my buddy Rob, my friend Johnny's sick, a few other people I know are sick, and there must be some sort of weird virus
if I get
going
sick,
around.
I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
Wow, okay, we're starting strong. How many times have I threatened to kill you when you were sick on the podcast like 40% of the time?
You're contagious.
I am?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't get sick often, so how do you know I'm contagious?
I'm just assuming.
You're assuming? Have you ever gotten sick from me?
Probably.
Well, you get sick off a fucking fly coming near you in the summer.
I've been
It's
much
my
healthier
fault.
this year.
This year's been 8 days.
Last year.
Were you really? Well, you got rid of the stomach issues by like May. We're gone.
I got healthy in June.
So it's not my fault. I get a cold that half the world has, some sort of cold virus going around. This is the first. I took a Ricola, okay, and I didn't chew it on the podcast.
Heavy medicine.
I'm getting blamed. You want to work at the USPS with those assholes blaming me for being sick?
Yep.
Fucking asshole postal employees. It's my fault for being sick. My mom used to blame me for being sick. So that's why I got 5 perfect attendance awards in a row. I wasn't allowed to be sick.
Did she say you weren't covering up enough at night, or?
No, she just said, "Why are you sick?
Why
are you coughing?"
sick?
Ask my sister. My mom's insane. You know why I'm this way? Because of my mom. She said, why are you sick? Yes. That's not a joke.
It's crazy.
When I coughed, she would yell at me. I never talked about my mother that much. Maybe I shouldn't.
No.
This is turn into some weird therapy sessions.
Man.
Really delve into my psychoses a bit.
That goes fucking deep.
Yes, it does.
There's a lot to unpack there.
So besides Ian threatening to beat the shit out of me 2 minutes into the podcast, we have YouTubers fucking up again. So it's a new year. Last year it was I was Jake Paul last year. Which Paul was it? I confused the Pauls. Was it Logan Paul?
It was Logan Paul.
Logan Paul, the older of the Paul brothers.
Yeah.
The veritable beacons of the internet.
Yes.
It was Logan Paul, 23 years old. Looks like he's 32, but whatever. He liked making fun of Japan, running around and smashing a Game Boy, and oh yeah, we're gonna film and laugh about people committing suicide.
Yep, that
was a great. And I was trying to. I saw him like he's on like the comeback tour, being interviewed. He has a podcast with his name in it. Paul's in the name somehow. It's douchey.
The Paulcast.
It's not the Paulcast would have been better than what his podcast is. What is his podcast called? I should have had this ready to go. But he's talking to people like, yeah, I'm trying to turn a new leaf over and everything. Podcast is called let's see,
Logan Paul Experience.
Impulsive. It was impulsive to think it was a good idea to go to Japan and fuck around and film a dead body and having no one in your entourage say, you know, that's not a good idea for your career to do that. Impulsive, and now he's doing something. He's doing good. But his little buddy brother Jake Paul got into some trouble. It got around the internet. H3H3 did a video on it. Ethan Klein,
along with RiceGum.
RiceGum. So RiceGum, I looked it up, is 20 years old, and my God, he thinks like a 12-year-old. We're going to get into that. But they both got huge sponsorships. And other YouTubers did as well. And RiceGum snitched on other YouTubers that did in the past. And it was like, why are you not going after these guys? Well, you're bigger than the other YouTubers that did this. But it's shitty whoever did it. So he was a snitch afterwards. And H3 did a follow-up basically calling him, you're a snitch on top of this.
Yeah.
So they did this thing called Mystery Brands where I guess it's a big thing on the internet where you get mystery boxes and you unbox them in front of people. You don't know what you're getting, and it's like gambling, but you bought something. This is a site where you virtually open things and pay money. So for $15, $75, $100, $150, you take a little fucking knife, little box cutter, a virtual one, and open a box, and you see what you get.
Okay.
For that dollar amount, and then they tell you what that item is worth and what you could sell it back for virtual dollars. You see where this is getting really bad already.
Yeah.
So he was like, oh my God, I won a $10,000 handbag. This was RiceGum. I'm going to sell that back. And the odds of getting that $10,000 handbag are probably so minuscule in reality. But of course, when these guys were doing it, Jake Paul, excuse me, the one confused with Paul.
Yeah,
Jake
got
Paul,
Nike, got a pair of.
They got these things too regularly that should have been due to the odds and how much money they're paying. Like one in, I don't know, 1,000 or 5,000. They were getting this stuff. You get a $10,000 item that should not happen randomly,
right,
to an account that you got comped most likely. You know what I mean? Like they knew that these guys were opening it. They want to show good. And yeah, there was a couple crappy ones thrown in, like a $5 box. Oh, I got some silicone earbud covers, but then I get the AirPods right afterwards. So it's bullshit. They have a childlike audience. We know that's bullshit too.
Childlike audience.
Well, they're children. They could be childlike when they're older. I don't know when they're 20s to be watching this shit. I just don't know. These are like 8 to 15-year-olds probably in that realm. So RiceGum's apology was probably the worst thing I've ever seen. It knocked off all the things. Other people have done it, so I'm snitching on them. Well, it was a lot of money, so of course I'm going to take it. He straight out basically said that.
Really?
Guys, it was a lot of money. He said, well, if these guys were offered $100,000 and I have more followers, you can guess how much money I was offered. So he probably was offered multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. And then he threw his managers under the bus. Oh, they just came to me with this, and I just did it. And then he says, do your own research on it. When if you're taking hundreds of thousands of dollars, shouldn't you research this shit?
Yeah. Holy shit.
Shouldn't that be your job to do it?
And they said,
and then he went on an impulsive.
Oh,
this is a good 2-for-1 in the intro. Then he goes on to the impulsive. God, that's douchey.
Impulsive. Yes.
And then says, well, this was in the past and we should move on. No, it happened like 3 days ago. Or 4 days. This was not a long time ago. This wasn't like an issue a year or 2 years ago. And
I hate, one of the things, just in general, I hate is how time has been accelerated
on the
internet. And like people expect you to forget about something from a month ago.
And then to make up for him, pushing this garbage gambling site, which by the way, the odds are bullshit. And by the way,
they don't even own the prizes.
They don't own the prizes. They have to go through an arbitrage site. It was like StockX. They have to go through an arbitrage site to get this shit and then ship it out. So some people were complaining that it was taking a couple weeks or more because they don't own the stock. And then they even have stuff like cars that you could potentially win,
and a luxury mansion,
and what was it, like a $250,000 house or a mansion?
It's a mansion.
No, it's $2.5 million.
Yeah, in Beverly Hills.
Yes,
and they say that
if you win, we're gonna help you buy it.
Yeah, we'll fly out there and we'll purchase it for you.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure that. And then the odds on that, I think they took down the odds, but someone calculated out the odds versus how much money you're putting in for the rate of return. And they know it's bullshit. It's a bullshit. And of course, it's like somewhere in Eastern Europe. So it's like, this is just red flags all around. I hope that these people aren't paid the money for this deal. I hope they got scammed too. Yeah. Because they don't deserve the money for pushing this shit. So this is my point about this. And yeah, it's stupid. Gross. It's dumb. RiceGum didn't apologize. He has the mentality of a 12-year-old. Everyone can probably agree on that. Jake Paul.
This is my first time hearing of him.
I've heard him before. He's what you expect. He's a vacuous YouTuber with a young audience. This is the point, though. They're fucking it up for everyone else. By them doing this shit, YouTube / Alphabet / Google, eventually are going to have to step in. They're going to have to, because the FTC is going to be like, what the fuck are you guys doing? What are you doing? It's the same thing with the loot boxes, where the government has to get involved because you're fucking it up for everyone else. That's what happens here. So when we talk about Flex Pro meals in the future, down the line, we might have to go through Google first in order to talk about this stuff. Because maybe at a certain price limit, maybe YouTube has to step in and say, okay, we got to look this shit through. And no, this puts us at risk for allowing this on the platform.
Exactly.
This is ridiculous. This was, to me, just as bad as the CSGO skin thing. Those guys own the company. But this is like, for 150.
I feel like this is just as bad.
It's just as bad. It could be worse.
If not worse.
Because the odds are bullshit. And then you know that they gave him a sweeter account with better odds to get good prizes. And you can't even get this shit potentially that you win. But you can trade up for money, and even RiceGum was saying, oh man, I'm making money doing this. So not even pretending it's not gambling.
Right.
I made money doing this. I started with $3,000, now I got $6,000. No, you didn't. It's $6,000 of credits for shit you might not be able to get anyway, and your odds are not the odds of the average person playing it.
And the article brought up a pretty interesting point that because they're going through StockX to get a lot of these prizes, StockX tries to catch counterfeits, and they say they have a 99% success rate, which is fine. Issues with that aside, not even getting into that whole end of it. So they have a customer service, apparently, that they say where if you were to get something that was bootleg or inauthentic, you would be able to get a hold of them, send it back, get your money back. But because people don't exactly know that their prizes are coming from this through,
they don't know.
They don't know. And if they were to get something bootleg, there's really no recourse or course of action for them to take, because
sure.
I hear the website is
it miserable?
I haven't been there, but yeah, I heard the what is it, mystery brand.
Oh no, my Hogan!
What are you doing?
Speaking of Hogan taking a fall, Hogan was on Raw last night for unfortunately the passing of Gene Okerlund, and he came out. He did it was a somewhat heartfelt speech. They got him back in there. It was a little bit too much posing and things like that, but he kept it more real. But Gene Okerlund passing away is kind of a bummer.
Oh yeah,
I thought
that sure is.
He really was sort of like the voice of WWE for a good 12 years. During the Rock and Wrestling, and then obviously Hulkamania, and then he was gone around 94. He went to WCW 93, 94 about. So he was there for most of our age's childhood, like multiple times a week.
Yep.
All American Wrestling that he'd host with Hillbilly Jim every week, and then Primetime Wrestling I think he was on. Maybe not Primetime. No, he wasn't. But he was on a lot of them. Besides the interviews you see all the time on the pay-per-views.
Right.
So he wasn't a young guy obviously, but it still stinks that he passed away, and sort of like all this first generation, most of those wrestlers are gone.
Yeah.
I mean, Hogan even was saying, he was like, me and Gene up there, he's making a match between Randy Savage and Ultimate Warrior, and everyone's cheering, versus Mr. Perfect. And it's just like, oh my God, all these guys are dead.
Yeah.
All these guys. And who's the fourth guy? Was it Rick Rude? No, it wasn't Rick Rude, but I love Rick Rude. Mr. Perfect is someone. Oh, Roddy Piper. It's like, yeah, everyone's dead. Like if you get to 60 as a wrestler, you're lucky. But I mean, it means you wasn't a wrestler, but you see my point. It was just, it's depressing.
Yeah, and he was a great lens to kind of view stories about the industry in the 80s through. He always had good stories because of his demeanor and his type of personality. He had I don't know, the stories you get from him or the way they're told is definitely different than hearing it, firsthand from a wrestler.
Yes.
So his perspective was always appreciated.
And he was in the AWA with Hogan before they both came over, so he was, him and Hogan were a good 1-2 team. I mean, and all the classic interviews. I mean, he was the guy that would talk to just the tag teams, and all the ones with Rick Rude and Ultimate Warrior, and obviously all the ones with Savage are all legendary.
Yeah.
How they played off each other. And that really sold the product and sold the characters more and sold the matches. So it's not just blowing smoke how important someone like Mean Gene was for that time period. So, all right, well, hats off to Mean Gene. I mean, yeah, it kind of got to me once they showed him and Bobby the Brain doing like in their skits. And I was like, okay, now it's hitting me. Now it's really hitting me. The chemistry he had with everyone as the straight man and all the pairings. Finally, Sears may be done. Sears has been around since like the 1880s, 1890s. They started to have stores. I think it was mail order first.
I used to love sitting in the library and
Sears catalog
in school and just going through the old ancient Sears catalogs from like 1905.
Oh, they had them from that long ago?
Yeah, they were.
Wow.
They were the middle school I went to.
Buy this Colt revolver.
Yeah, no. The middle school I went to had like one from 1900 and one from like 1905. They were these big hardback volumes that looked like someone had bound them, or I'm sure it was a reproduction. I don't know, but they were massive. And like there's ads in there, buy this house.
Oh, sure.
They come and, build it for you.
And that's where it was like yellow and white, the magazines, or it was like single color. Or was
the one that I read in school was yellow. Yeah, it was a big, like, solid yellow book.
How do I know that?
But
I don't know.
I mean, I have no affection for Sears.
Well, I do, because whenever
I bought my DVD player there, I bought my first DVD player.
Oh, I'm talking about 80s and early 90s when they had an awesome toy section.
Sure.
Sears was so powerful at some point. They had exclusive toys they had exclusive G.I. Joe things, only a few. They had exclusive Star Wars toys, and probably other brands too. They probably had He-Man and other ones. Sears was the big department store, outside of like Macy's / whatever, Bamberger's and everything else. They're the oldest one. So whenever we go to buy my Husky pants, which is a nice way of saying fat when you're a kid, my Husky pants, my corduroy Husky pants, it made it better that my mom would swing around the toy section, and they had a nice toy section and electronics section. They were kind of close to each other. So we'd come back with, I remember 1984, we bought Duke and Snow Serpent, Snow Viper, Snow Serpent Viper figures. It was the first G.I. Joe's ever bought.
Snow Serpent Viper?
Well, he's Snow Serpent, but he's a Viper. He's a generic Cobra soldier.
I gotcha.
Snow, and those are the two first G.I. Joes I ever had. I'll never forget that. That was from Sears. So this isn't just, all retail stores are going under. No, this is Sears not adapting well with the times. Same thing like Toys R Us. Plus, they're just loaded with debt from private firms, just like Toys R Us was. So those are a 1-2 punch that's hard to ignore. But no, they didn't adapt with the times. They didn't do that. None of these companies said we're going to have a massive online presence and go towards that. And they're 10, 12 years too late. And that's what happens with these companies. It's not pretty, but it happens. They get lazy.
Yeah, it's wild. 100 years of history.
125 years.
Well, I'm saying like 100 years of history, more. And then in like 25, boom, just fall off.
I would say 15 years.
Yeah.
They probably were good up until the early 2000s, I would say. And then because Amazon wasn't even really that huge until about 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Now Amazon's everything. When people discovered, Amazon's everything, even before Prime, but I'd say the past 2-3 years, Amazon's taken over everything, with good reason. They're putting stores out of business, but we're getting our stuff quick and cheap. South Park did an excellent episode on that.
I haven't watched any of it yet.
Oh, you got to watch the Amazon episode. Holy shit. They were not easy on Amazon. All right, so that's what's going on. And there's a new NES Punk episode that Ian actually was anticipating this time.
I watched it.
Ian watched it, and he actually had mostly positive feedback.
Mostly positive. Majority positive.
So one thing he didn't like, but Ian can be my script doctor. He can punch up the scripts.